Our next guest is Dr. Rafal Pankowski. He's a Rotary Peace Fellow at Makerere University in Uganda. Professor Pankowski is a Polish sociologist and political scientist. And I must add that when Les Walesa-led solidarity movement was going on in Poland, and I was a little kid, and I was mesmerized by how peaceful that movement was, and I'm mesmerized how destructive these Gen Z movements are. So, as a sociologist, someday we'll read your comments on this. But now, on the issue of religious extremism and regional instability.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, namaskar. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, greetings from the Rotary Peace Center at Makerere University, Kampala, Uganda. My name is Rafal Pankowski, and I'm a sociologist as well as a human rights activist. I come from Poland. I am currently in Uganda, and it is a real honor to participate in this very important global conversation. What brings us all together from across the world today is, of course, the love of Bangladesh, its people, its culture, its heritage. It is also the love of the history of Bangladesh. But I think there is also much more. It is our shared commitment to the universal values of human rights. And I think the three countries I have just mentioned, Bangladesh, Poland, and Uganda, they are, of course, quite different in many ways, and they are distant from each other if we look on the map. But they also have something in common. It is, for example, the history of the fight for freedom and the legacy of the fight for their own specific and inclusive, at the same time, identity. In the case of Bangladesh, of course, it is the legacy of the struggle for language rights, as well as especially the liberation war. In the case of Uganda, it is the anti-colonial struggle, but also the struggle against the tyranny of Idi Amin. In the case of Poland, it is, for example, the tragic experience of Nazi occupation during World War II and the struggle against fascism, as well as against totalitarianism. Today, we face a common global challenge of the rise in violent extremism, radicalization, authoritarian and intolerant anti-minority movements and regimes. And I believe what is common in terms of the global challenge for all of us today is the specter of fascism that is hanging over our planet. And I'm afraid that includes Bangladesh today. Fascism can be defined in many different ways, but I believe one way of defining fascism is the following. It is an ideology, it is a vision of total cultural homogeneity. It is a vision of a society where there is no place for diversity. There is no place for minorities of any type, be it ethnic, be it religious, be it political. And an organization of which I have been a co-founder, the Never Again Association, is committed to the struggle against fascism understood as organized intolerance. And this is a struggle that is international, this is a struggle that is global, and this is a kind of struggle that I believe is very, very highly relevant to Bangladesh today. And over the years, I have met many brilliant people, many inspiring people in this struggle, in the international human rights movement. But one of them who really stands out for me is our dear friend from Bangladesh, Shahriar Kabir, who, among other things, has written dozens of books on very important topics, including a very important and a very interesting book about the experience of solidarity in Poland and the peaceful transformation to democracy in Poland and across the former Soviet bloc, which I think is something that is very relevant and important for me to mention here today. And Shahriar Kabir, in many ways, for me, is the symbol of the movement for minority rights, for human rights, for peaceful solutions, both in Bangladesh and internationally. Uh, what is also very important in terms of the many years of positive campaigning by Shahriar Kabir is the struggle against genocide denial, which I believe is not only important for Bangladesh, but it is also very important globally, internationally, vis-à-vis all the different cases of genocide across the world. And I believe it is highly ironic and it is a travesty of justice that someone like Shahriar Kabir, a global hero of human rights and minority rights, is currently in jail in Bangladesh uh, because of his human rights activity, because of his activity and years of activism dealing with genocide commemoration and genocide denial. There's one more figure, very well known internationally from Bangladesh, who I also had the chance to meet just briefly in Poland during a summit of Nobel Peace Prize winners. That is, of course, Mr. Yunus. And of course, for good reasons, Bangladesh can be proud of having a Nobel Peace Prize winner. But I believe it is very ironic and unfortunate that a wave of repression against human rights activists and political opposition, as well as minorities, is happening under the watch of a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And the issue of the current rise and the emboldening of extremist groups in Bangladesh is very concerning indeed. And also the fact that it is happening under the watch of a Nobel Peace Prize winner, well, that is highly ironic and sad. And I would like to use this opportunity to appeal to Mr. Yunus. Please, free Shahriar Kabir. Please free the political prisoners and independent journalists in Bangladesh today. I believe the global human rights movement will truly appreciate an improvement in the situation of minorities in Bangladesh, independent journalists, and human rights activists. Thank you very much for having me today. Joy Bangla.
Thank you, Dr. Rafal, and thank you for pointing out the plight of uh, prisoner of conscience, I will say, uh, a human rights activist par excellence. Shahriar Kabir is a journalist and a prolific writer, and we must raise our voice globally. And we request the distinguished panel to raise your voice globally to the corridor of power for his release, as well as the release of other journalists and the political leaders and the parliamentarians in Bangladesh. Thank you again, Professor Rafal.